The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
If you really want to doge, this is how you doge. You don't vote for bad legislation that expands government. Thank you.
Now we're talking about taxpayer money, and we talk about accountability. It is their money. This isn't a government program we're actually spending on. We're actually giving it back to the people of Idaho.
There's other options for making our ballots more secure, such as using watermarks or putting holograms on the ballots.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
I asked the question rhetorically, if we gave them another $1 billion, they wouldn't be happy. Well, we've given them $2 more billion, and it's not enough.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
Other states like Texas and Florida have enacted similar laws to address illegal immigration, both locally and in their communities. And Idaho has the right to protect itself when the federal government has failed to do that.
COVID presented us with quite the enigma. We didn't really know what it was or what to do, but that is no excuse to violate the rights of the citizens of the state of Idaho.
Say vote no on this and let the teachers teach and quit bringing in coaches to teach the teachers to teach, and let's get education going again in Idaho.
I don't know what's coming after this current administration for the feds, and we need this law because our federal laws on immigration have failed.
Mr. President, I think it's incumbent upon us to allow parents to use their hard-earned dollars to provide what's best for their children.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
My concern is that the resilience of Idahoans who believe in self-reliance and self-responsibility will be eroded.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have to rest without them.
Yeah, watch it.
Well, good morning, everybody. March 3rd, 2026. Idaho Signal is back on the air. Welcome, everybody. My name is Matt Edwards, and we have a stacked show for you today, so we're just going to get rolling right into it. We are paying attention to what's happening on the House floor. We'll get to some of that later. Brian Allman will be with us to cover some of that. But first, I want to take you back to about a year ago. A year ago this month, when we helped break a story that happened in the Boise School District. If you recall, if you're a loyal viewer of the program from the beginning, you know that we've been covering this issue extensively, and that is when males decide to invade the girls' restrooms and locker rooms inside our public school systems because they have decided that they want to identify as the opposite sex. Sometimes they wear female clothing, sometimes they don't, but nevertheless they are allowed to, just by their own declaration, enter a female's restroom in school. And so last year we covered what happened in Boise School District, where we received information. We got an email thread from a concerned mom who let's throw up that email there, and they put out that here was the comment. The email stated as they reached out to the Boise School District here, Boise High School. Hi, this is so-and-so's mom, and today there was an issue in a girl's bathroom where her daughter walked in on a boy masturbating in the stall. They came in, they talked to somebody there, but the daughter came home from anxiety. Can you email me a copy of the school's restroom policies, please? Can I also get a copy of the incident report? Her father and I are not comfortable knowing that this boy is allowed in the girls' restroom. The school responded by saying, thanks for reaching out with your concerns. Under district policy, students who are on a gender support plan are able to use the bathroom that aligns with the gender they identify as. There is a gender-neutral bathroom available, but no one is required to use it. It is each student's choice. They go on to talk about this bathroom issue without ever saying, "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Is your daughter okay?" This was the mentality of the school system. So we said at the time last year that we're not necessarily want to rail on or focus on the boy that was in the restroom at this time, the male, because clearly mental issues and the boy needs help. But this was the response of the school. The response of the school was to say, look, the kid was on a gender support plan. What do you want us to do? Like, that's just what it is. This is the world we live in, and yada, yada, yada. So we've been loosely kept in touch with the parents since over the last year, knowing that they've been working with the police department to file police reports and so forth. And now we're to the point where the Idaho Family Policy Center has just announced, they issued a press release announcing that they've taken on this case, and they are now going to sue the school. So here is their press release. It was put out in the some outlets picked it up, but I want to focus on the statement from Caleb Pierce, the director of the Idaho Family Policy Center's legal center. He said here, Idaho students should feel safe in Idaho schools and nowhere more than in the most private spaces like restrooms and locker rooms. But rather than protecting its students' safety and privacy, Boise High School facilitated the violation of our client's privacy by allowing a biological male student to use the girls' restroom. Encountering a male in the girls' restroom is a traumatic experience for a young girl, and experiences like those of our client painfully illustrate that reality. We intend to hold Boise School District accountable for its actions. This isn't just encountering a boy inside the girls' restroom, which is traumatic enough. It's already traumatic. But the fact that this boy was engaged in the activity that he was doing is just heightens it all. Joining us now is Caleb Pierce from the Idaho Family Policy Center. Caleb, thanks for joining us today. I have to tell you, just personally speaking, when I heard about this story a year ago and these parents reached out to us, I can't tell you, I've been waiting for this day to happen. So I thank you. I thank your organization for stepping up and taking on this case. What can you tell us so far? What else can you expand upon here from your press release?
Yeah, Matt, thanks so much for having me on the show. I think it's a really important issue, and we care a lot about our client and getting justice for our client, and intend to hold Boise High School accountable for its actions. And that's why we filed this lawsuit, right? So we filed the notice of tort claim back in September with the school district, and that process means that they have a certain amount of time to respond to that, and they didn't respond, which constitutes a denial of the claim. And so we're filing this lawsuit to hold them accountable for their actions, right? And I think, like you mentioned, right, the focus isn't really on the student, right? That our client encountered, right? The main focus of this lawsuit is on Boise High School and the Boise School District for their failure to protect our client and her privacy and safety in the women's restroom. And this is exactly why Senate Bill 1100 was researched, drafted, and championed by Idaho Family Policy Center years ago, was to protect students like this in public school bathrooms across the state of Idaho, to protect women and girls and their privacy and safety in these bathrooms. In this case, it illustrates exactly why that's so important. But rather than follow the law, Boise High School decided to flout the law and violate it, and we're going to hold them accountable for that.
Yeah, amen, brother. That's great. And yes, this is not a one-off situation. I have been contacted by multiple people, multiple parents, regarding these issues. I've heard stories from other folks who and they won't come out in public. And now your client is going to remain anonymous, at least through this process now, going under the name Jane Doe, along with the family. And we've redacted the names. I know who they are, but we're not going to display that as well. But one brave family came to us a couple of years ago, even before this show was on the air, and I did an interview with her up in Coeur d'Alene. She was she was a student, a senior at Coeur d'Alene High School, and she encountered the same thing. She encountered, that's Julie and her mom there, telling us about her experience in the boys' restroom and encountering a male who not only was in the restroom, but when he came out of the stall, he was dressed as a boy, even though he said he identified as a girl. So he was in the stall next to her. So who knows what was going on in there? She's not alleging anything more than the fact that he was in the restroom. But this is a huge problem, and if it happens to one, and they come out like this, and then it happens to another, and it's in another part of the state, and we're hearing this stuff all over the country. I mean, we have to hold these people accountable. And I am so, I don't know how much you're asking for or how much damages you're going to throw at these people, but I mean, walk us through what the next step is, because you had already said they denied they denied getting back to you when you reached out to them. We reached out to them as well a year ago, wanting to know their policies, and we never heard back from them. So once again, what is the steps moving forward here? How are you going to drag these guys into court?
So we already have, right? So we filed this complaint against them, and we're in court in Ada County District Court, and then it's up to them to respond. But we intend to see this through to the end. And I think that what you mentioned there is really important, right? And that is, it doesn't really matter like what all happens in the bathroom. What matters is the fact that there is a man in a women's restroom, right? And no girl should have to experience that. It's traumatic. It causes anxiety, and that sort of experience is something that no girl should have to experience, especially while just trying to get an education at her local public high school. And this is why this case illustrates the importance of laws like SB 1100 in protecting women and girls in these spaces. And we're honored to be able to represent this client and to help her through this litigation so she can get the justice that she deserves for the pain and anxiety that was caused to her by Boise High School.
Yeah. Now, Caleb, walk me through this, because when the bill was passed, Senate Bill 1100, it immediately had a lawsuit against it. I believe it went to the United States Supreme Court, and along that journey, there was a point where a judge said he kind of like was it that he kind of froze the status, not saying that the bill was not walk us through that, because he didn't really say that the bill couldn't be enforced, but he also said that it's not unconstitutional. It's kind of like, hey, everybody, just remain status quo for now until the Supreme Court figures it out, right?
Yeah, and I don't want to get too much into the legal strategy here, right? But the law was enforcement of the law was temporarily enjoined pending appeal. The Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit has said that law is constitutional and can be enforced, and so we intend to enforce that law for the violation that happened by that Boise School District caused, right? Because they broke the law, and we intend to get justice for our client on that.
Yeah, when you this is a big thing for me, because certainly you're suing the school district, but there are people who run that district. There are people who make decisions. How do we hold them accountable? Because I'm reading that email that we shared earlier, and I'm looking at the name. I know the names under those redactions there. How do we hold people like that accountable for just allowing this to happen? Or is it just the institution itself?
Yeah, so the legislation provides for actions against the school, right? And that's why we're suing the school district. But the people that work for the school district, right, they can create liability for the school when they take those actions. And that's why it's important that school districts make sure that people in their employ are following Idaho law. And in this case, those employees at Boise High weren't. And Boise High School and Boise School District violated the law through the actions of their employees.
All right, Caleb. So we're in court here. Is this a federal district court? Is it an Idaho court? Like, can this thing be appealed? Are we going to be in this process for the next 5 years trying to figure this out? Like, give us some expectations here.
Yeah. So we filed this in Ada County District Court, which is the state court for the county. And the process for that can take a long time. There's a whole lot of different things that can happen along the way. You can have appeals, like you mentioned. It depends on how long it takes to fight this out. But we're willing to fight this out to the end to make sure that our client gets the justice that they need and that they deserve under Idaho law. And so that could be there could be a whole lot of ways that this case could go. But we intend to make sure that the end result is that our client gets the justice that they need. And I think that, we'll see. We'll see how Boise School District responds, right? We've just filed this. They've got time to respond to it. And depending on what that response looks like could change the course of this litigation. But what we do hope is that no matter what course it takes at the end of this, that we'll get justice for our client.
Yeah, amen. We'll be praying for it for sure. Okay, now you do this work pro bono for your client, which is great. But that also takes support from folks out there. So how can people support your efforts? How can they keep tabs on this case? And what can we do to help you win?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Matt. Like you mentioned, all our work here is done pro bono. We represent these clients free of charge. We don't charge a dime. And we're honored to be able to do that. Folks can support us in our work at our website, idahofamily.org. There's an ability to donate there. And like you mentioned, prayer. We appreciate prayer for us as we litigate this case. And I think, that's one of the things I'm so excited about with the Legal Center here at IFPC is the chance to represent families like our client across the state of Idaho who experience violations of their constitutional rights, who experience these sorts of harms. We're here to be able to help folks like that, to be able to hold government accountable, to follow the law, to be able to protect the constitutional rights of citizens across the state. And we're happy to do that free of charge in order to be able to help families work through this. And so any support that people are willing to give us is really appreciated. And most importantly, we believe in prayer, and we're grateful for the prayers of those who are willing to support us in this work.
Excellent. Thank you. One last question. How is the family doing?
Great. Yeah. One of the things that I love about this work is my wife is also an attorney here at the center. We had the chance to meet in law school, and it's really great to be able to be in this fight together for our state. I grew up here, and this is my home, and I want to make sure that families like me, families like mine, can continue to live out their God-given rights here in Idaho. And it's great to be able to work together in protecting families across the state.
Excellent. All right, Caleb. Well, thanks for joining us. We're going to check back in with you now that this thing is live. It's moving down the road, so we're expect to hear from us again. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Matt.
All right, take care. All right, folks. Very important stuff. I mean, this is I can't. I mean, I'm so glad we're at this point. I hate to be in this position at all, but they're going to be out there seeking statutory damages and damages for psychological and emotional harm that they will hopefully prove at trial. I am just appalled that we even have to be in this situation, But thank God there's legislators out there. Thank God that a place like Idaho is staying on top of this and not backing down. And when this case went to the United States Supreme Court, and that's where Attorney General Raul Labrador and his team had to argue it. And it came back that this obviously this law that says men can't go into girls' restrooms can be upheld. And so it was upheld in the public schools. We've got more bills running this year that says you can't do it in other areas of society. It's a no-brainer. But the fact that we have to run these bills is absolutely atrocious. So, but here we are, and we're gonna win, and we're gonna pound these people into the sand. I mean, it is incredible that we have to be here like this. So, very good. Okay, let's shift gears here because we have some important calls to action for you guys out there. Should we fire off that signal boost? Yes, there it is. The illegal workforce bills, specifically two of them, H700 and H704. They were directed yesterday. They made it. They both passed the House with some fireworks, but they both passed the House last week, and yesterday they were directed to the State Affairs Committee in the Senate, the Senate State Affairs Committee. That is chaired by Senator Guthrie. And if you're paying attention, you know that is where bills go to die. We're not necessarily saying that those bills are dead right now, but we want to encourage Chairman Guthrie. We want to encourage the entire Senate State Affairs Committee to make sure that these two bills get a hearing. We're not even asking that they pass them yet. We're just asking that they hold a hearing. And they were just directed. Now, we were giving the benefit of the doubt here, right? Like, they were just directed to go to the Senate State Affairs Committee. And so we're not saying that they never were going to have a hearing. We are just saying we know how the game is played. And the Senate State Affairs Committee with Chairman Guthrie normally gets these bills and they don't go anywhere. And so we're doing a preemptive strike, right? That's the new term now, where we do a preemptive attack, where we say, we're paying attention. And the emails are already going in. You can email there by hitting that QR code. If you hit that QR code, it'll open up your email, your own email, and it'll have a place for you to put your name. It's your email. It's your email account that opens up, and you can write whatever you want. We already have a one or two sentences in there to get you started. But you hit that QR code, or you go to email.citizensalliance.org/ the googly-guck there, and it'll open up your email and get you going. But the point is, get in contact with the committee, get in contact with the chairman, and ask for a hearing. We need to hold hearings on these bills. This is House Bill 700 and House Bill 704. Real quickly, 704 says every employer has to use E-Verify to make sure that the documents that they are receiving get checked in the federal E-Verify system to say, yes, these documents, if you have compared them to the person handing them to you, yes, that they are legal or they are not legal to work in the United States. And then H700 is the enforcement mechanism. It says if an employer knowingly hires a illegal worker, an illegal alien, that they will be penalized if it's found out. So these two bills are now in the Senate, and we need to make sure that we're holding these hearings. And so we encourage you to reach out there. We know that on the forefront of this is our good friend Michael Angeletta, and we wanted to check in with him real quick now that we know what committee these bills have been sent to, just to get a quick update, just to get his feel and his sense. Michael joins us now. Michael, this is the committee everybody's worried about. We didn't want to see them go there, but we're still optimistic. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. And, to be clear, I think there is a valid argument to have placed this bill in what's called the Commerce Committee on the Senate side. Commerce deals more with labor compliance, hiring, firing, that sort of stuff. And state affairs usually deals with, constitutional issues. I think the reason why it ended up in state affairs is because there is a competing E-Verify light bill, and that's putting it politely, but it's very, very narrow, introduced by Senator Harris, and that bill started in state affairs. So from a consistency standpoint, I think the decision was made to also place what we would call the real full E-Verify bill, HB 704, in that same committee, for better or for worse. So that's kind of why we are where we are now.
Yeah. That logic can ring. That's got some merit to it for sure. If it and remind us again, it did make it out of that committee. Did it make it out of the floor? Or are we still waiting? What's the current status of that one?
You're referring to the Harris bill, correct?
The Harris bill, yeah.
Yeah, the E-Verify light bill, which, to be clear, only deals with like federal contractors of 150 more employees. So in other words, it doesn't address any of the real problems we're having to deal with right now in Idaho with illegal labor. It doesn't touch it. That bill is now over to the House. And I guess I would say somewhat ironically, that bill is now in the same committee where the full E-Verify bill started, which is in the House Business Affairs Committee. And that committee, if you recall, passed the HB 704 fully verified bill 16-2. Right. My understanding is Mickelson and Pohanka are sponsoring it on the House side. So that'll be interesting to watch how that is presented and how that is deliberated in the House Business Affairs Committee.
Okay,
and that's
so
going to happen real soon. Yeah.
Yeah, and then to your point, that kind of shows the consistency that you brought up earlier. If both bills on the House side were going through business, then and the E-Verify was going through the state on the other side, that maybe that lends some legitimacy to that theory. So, like I said, I don't want to jump ahead. I don't want to be calling out people for shenanigans yet. It's up to the people. It's up to us. If this is truly an 80-20 issue, and I know it is, and we've already seen the emails going out from at least our call. I expect that there's going to be a hearing. Otherwise, they're going to hear it. They're going to hear it.
Yeah, and I think the operative word is yet, right? We have to give it a fair chance to deliberate and be heard. We have to give Senator Guthrie some grace and let us know that it's going to be heard. So right now, we're kind of in the wait and see, but we want the public, as you were just doing with your call to action, to let Senator Guthrie know that the vast majority of Idahoans, let alone Americans, want this. That much is absolutely bona fide, clear, and proven with all the surveying and polling that's been done. The public wants this. It's only fair to get a hearing. It's only fair and just.
Absolutely. Okay, so and now these are just two bills that you have been paying attention to. Can you give us a quick update on some of the other bills that are either coming? Are they in the pipeline? Before we let you go.
Yeah, you bet. There's a ton of bills, actually. And as usual, you've got it up there right now. You can track all of the relevant bills and what our stances are and why we have those stances. But there's basically a couple of baskets of bills. One is all about metrics and transparency. So just figuring out, is there a problem and what's the size of the problem? So when we look at arrest records, how many arrests are of illegals? When we look at the schools, how many schools have to service how many illegal aliens? When we're looking at hospitals and emergency care, what does the scope of that cost look like, right? So we can't make informed decisions unless we know what the actual size of the problem is. So that's one basket. And then the other basket is enforcement, right? And we just talked about two of them now. It's E-Verify, and then it's applying misdemeanors for illegal hiring. There's other enforcement. In fact, today in the House Judiciary Committee at 12:30 Pacific is a bill that's going to be heard called HB 764, Harboring Illegals. And this is another enforcement bill which simply says, if you're an organization, let's say an NGO, and you are intentionally facilitating the harboring and knowingly harboring illegals, that there will be sanctions in response to that illegal behavior. It's aligned with federal law. We're not inventing something new. It works in parallel with federal law. So we're not creating new immigration law. So that's an example of some of the enforcement stuff that's happening right now. So far, my understanding is nothing is being blocked per se. Senator Lenny had one of those transparency bills in Guthrie's committee. It hasn't moved yet, so we have to watch for that one as well. At the end of the day, the challenge is going to be on the Senate side. We all know that. And all we can do is create as much publicity, daylight, and momentum as possible coming out of the House, because we see the House is doing the right thing on these bills. So when it hits the Senate, they have to feel that almost unstoppable wave of public will. And that's our job. That's our job, to make sure everybody knows and gets enabled to let the Senate know this is what we want.
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic. Well, you're doing a fine job of it there. Everybody go to IdahoImmigrationWatch.org to follow these bills, see where they're at. And if you want to do more, reach out and get on the train with these guys, because they're absolutely doing it. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. IdahoImmigrationWatch.org. Anywhere else where people can follow?
You can follow us on X. Look for us at Secure Idaho, or on Facebook. We're also there at Secure Idaho as well. And every day we're giving the people an update on what bills are going where and what they can do to help.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll have you back, especially when we hear of a hearing. Very good. Thanks again, Michael. Okay, folks, that's good. Some good optimism there. I like that But let's do this. Our producers put together a cool little compilation. Up in Kootenai County, there was a town hall, and with the state legislators. And Kootenai County has there are 12 state legislators that cover some portion of Kootenai County, and I believe this particular town hall had about 10 of them, maybe 9. Anyway, one of the big topics during this town hall that happened last weekend was immigration. It was these bills and these E-Verify bills. And the sponsor of a bunch of these bills is Representative Jordan Redmond, Representative Dale Hawkins, and supported by everybody else on the dais here. And so there were some questions. There was some updates on how we got here and where we think we're going. And so the producers put this little package together, and we want to show it to you so you can kind of stay up to speed. We will show you that. We will take a break, and we will be back with Brian Allman on the other side of it all. Stay tuned.
And that's exactly what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape because we now got video.
Idaho's Republican governor signed the bill to reduce her income tax rate, but Jim Guthrie voted against it. Our governor signed the Idaho Medical Freedom Act, but Jim Guthrie voted against it. Our governor signed the school choice bill, but Jim Guthrie voted against it. Our governor signed bills ending taxpayer-funded soda and junk food, removing DEI from our universities, and outlawing pride flags being flown on government property. And Senator Jim Guthrie voted against all of it. Who does Jim Guthrie really represent? Because it certainly isn't you.
Paid for by Citizens Alliance of Idaho.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among the world's silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
You in the House, I think you all voted yes for the bills, but give me your perspective on the prospects for those bills and any other bills related to illegal aliens in the state of Idaho and why this is an important issue for the state of Idaho this session.
Okay, I'm going to begin. I think you should all be very aware that the people in the South, where the agriculture and where the dairymen are, voted against that bill. So you better be packing food, because if they're right, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, because no one will do that work, which is a little bit strange.
So the E-Verify bill, I carried that bill.
I want to focus again on what this bill does do. I think this bill protects Idaho's economy and its workers, the ones here legally. This protects our economy. It sets a level playing field for all employers.
Another one of the arguments that we heard on the floor, and if you want to watch a little bit of entertainment, watch the floor debate on this bill.
It's contemplated that this could affect possibly 28,000 jobs in the state of Idaho, and we're saying there's no fiscal impact. In Twin Falls County, Chobani is just in the process of a $1 billion expansion to their plant, creating 400 new jobs. Do you realize the kind of uncertainty we're sending to the business community?
They claim that it's going to hurt Idaho's economy, that they will no longer be able to produce like they are now, and it is going to hurt our economy.
But I don't think it's wise for us to take this type of an economic hit in this type of a budget environment. And on July 1st or June 30th, let all these people go from their jobs, turn them loose in the streets.
I cannot believe some of the stuff that we hear on the House floor.
Them, us. It's really tough. And so I would just caution all of us to be inclusive in our language.
Also, we have millions of people in this country that are paying into our Social Security system. And I don't think anybody in this body would disagree that Social Security financially is pretty broken. But if you pull out millions of people who are paying in and never going to get the benefits back, it's broken a whole lot more. Thank you.
What I'm hearing is that certain industries are addicted to people who are here illegally. Well, you've got to cure yourself of that addiction.
They basically were standing up and admitting that they were breaking the law.
This morning we're here to unveil and share with you an economic report that looks at what would happen to Idaho's economy if we did indeed remove a significant portion of our unauthorized workforce.
If we reduce the number of laborers on dairies, dairy output will have to be curtailed. The same story can be told with potatoes, with barley, etc. Our baseline scenario removes 50% of the estimated productivity directly associated with the undocumented laborers in each of those industries. So 45% reduction in dairy output, 25% associated reduction in dairy processing, 22.5% reduction in all agriculture, and an additional 5% reduction in agricultural processing, 13% reduction in residential construction, and 10% reduction in hospitality and dining services.
So does the dairy, ag, any construction industry across the state in Idaho, but speaking to dairy specifically because that's who you represent, do they knowingly employ illegal immigrants in the state of Idaho?
Mr. Nerbau. Mr. Chairman, Representative Harris, no, we do not knowingly hire undocumented or unauthorized individuals in the state.
About a third of our workforce is foreign-born. Now, foreign-born could be here legally, illegally, temporarily.
So it's not for lack of availability, it's a lack of desire of the domestic workforce. If we narrow that down into Idaho, the same year, we had a little over 7,600 applications in Idaho. Idaho is the 12th largest user of H-2A workers. Over 7,600 applications, there were 5 Idahoans that applied.
If we have this whole mindset that, I just think of ancient Rome, if we're going to have this mindset that no one wants to do the work except for those that come in illegally, we've really got a problem, and we do have a problem.
Many of the same people who voted for the bills that would penalize those who broke the law were voting against the E-Verify bill, saying that we should break this law because this is one that favors us.
I'd like to offer a different perspective. Nobody looks at it from the human standpoint, from the illegals. When we have this shadow society, this shadow government of people working for a substandard wage, there's always a tendency, and I'm not making accusations, but there's always a tendency to treat them by their employers in a less fair and just manner than a person who is free to accept that job and walk away from that job when the working conditions get unbearable. These people are here. I understand their plight. They're trying to make a better life for themselves and their families. They're doing it illegally, so that's something we have to take into account. But they are not treated fairly.
The point that I'm bringing is that back in that time, that generation, slavery was kind of the norm. We go and we look at today, and a lot of people are able to go and take advantage of many of these
Point of order.
Good lady from 32.
We are not talking about slavery here. What's been going on behind the scenes is there's lots of people saying every agricultural employer in this state is a plantation or a slave owner, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. And so you are disparaging the entire industries because of somebody's made-up baloney of what
Objection. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Impugning motives.
Employers in this state in the agricultural industry are required to follow federal and state laws. And when the good gentleman from Legislative District 25 is impugning that employers are slave owners.
Point of order. Mr. Speaker, could you put the House at ease for just a minute?
That's a good idea, gentlemen.
Congressman Labrador was up north and he made a statement, and the statement was that 90% of the labor force in Idaho was on dairies was not legal, which obviously I've given you that 90% number. There was an AP reporter in that room, and I got a call almost instantly. He says, will you confirm what Senator or Congressman Labrador just said? And you take a breath, and you have told Congressman Labrador all the facts. And I said, well, I think his numbers are a little high. I'll put it at 70%. And that's what I'll tell you. I think it's about 70% based on the data we have.
The current situation gives competitive advantage to companies that break the law. They know they're hiring illegal aliens. The dairymen's lobbyist said that up to 70% of their employees could fail an audit of their I-9 forms. So they know they're there, they know they're doing it. And, like Representative Levitt was saying, it almost creates a slavery situation in that they are locked in here because the illegal alien workers know that if they complain too loudly, then they'll just get deported. And so they can't complain. They have to do whatever the companies want. And the companies like that arrangement because they don't have to pay American workers American wages, and they have a very, a locked-in workforce. It's a bad situation. We need to enforce the existing laws that we have.
The argument of those that voted no is that they will lose their workers.
I mean, this is exactly what America First is all about. It's getting E-Verify, even though it's not perfect. But if it wasn't so perfect, you wouldn't find this much resistance if it didn't work. If it actually didn't work, you wouldn't find this much resistance. And then you have House Bill 700 here who says, look at this. If you knowingly hire an illegal alien, which is illegal to do, you will get penalized for it. And these people in red say, no, we don't like that.
They are almost tacitly admitting that they have people that are undocumented, illegally here, and that are doing the work for them. And that tacit agreement or admission doesn't seem to faze them. They do not mind that at all. We absolutely need them if you want to eat.
I don't know about you, but I want to eat every single day.
It was also brought up earlier in the week, a complaint about the fast food industry, that somebody waited in line, a representative waited in line 45 minutes to get something from Taco Bell.
And I'd like to, when I go to the Taco Bell or the McDonald's, be able to have my food in less than 45 minutes. And I got to tell you, the other day, my husband and I waited 45 minutes for food at a fast food place.
Which I find, ludicrous. A, I would go Taco Bell. B, I would wait 45 minutes for food. So the point that she was trying to make is that we need undocumented workers so that we don't have that 45-minute wait.
And so we have to be able to have a way to access workers in certain industries where they cannot attract workers.
What I would offer as an example is go to In-N-Out. Okay? Not only is the food better, but you have 20 or 25 people working at In-N-Out, working hard. You don't wait 45 minutes. There's a business model that works. And I'll offer another example. Go to Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is packed with employees. So there are business models that work without employing low-cost workers, and they work fabulously well.
I think a lot of the debate against it was that, these workers were not going to be able to support our workforce, which I argue if your business model is directly involved with breaking a law, then you need to change your business model.
It's time that we started to rein them in. 30,000, 50,000, whatever the number is. We've got to allow the jobs for those of us that live here. And if the kids get out of high school and have to do some of that work and work their way up to CEO of something, didn't we all do that? Yeah. What is wrong with getting out there and doing the hard dirt ground, the work?
That is true. What is wrong with getting out there and doing the hard work? Dig in, rise up. Fantastic. Thank you so much to our producer for putting that through. What a great compilation. I mean, it just wow. All of that, just incredible. The QR code is up at the top. We want to make sure we get a hearing on these bills in the Senate State Affairs Committee, and we need to do that today. It needs to happen, folks. It needs to happen. Joining us now, Brian Allman. Brian, good to see you, my friend. What did you think of that compilation? It really puts things in perspective, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't add much to what was already said there. I mean, obviously, I even said some things there. You said some things there. Representative Mickelson said some things there that are very telling. I get why she gets offended with the comparison to slave owners. I mean, that is a pretty horrific thing. But if you consider the arguments of, the slave owners, right? Before the Civil War, it was that, we can't get rid of this peculiar institution because our economy depends on it. You're going to have to pay more for your cotton. The slaves are just doing the jobs that the white folks don't want to do. So it really is the same narrative, even if the situation might be slightly different. So I think it was appropriate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you look back and you think about, the chattel slavery, kidnapping people from another part of the world and dragging them over here in just the horrible conditions and the way they are treated and all of the awfulness of what we see as being depicted during slavery in America during those times is horrific and awful. And no one is suggesting that there are potato farmers out there with whips and chains and the like. But the scenario that we have today, where people do feel that they can't stand up for their certain rights that they might have in terms of just the unique labor laws that we might have that have developed because of slavery or because of the Industrial Revolution, and the sort of the whole reason why unions formed was to say, hey, the workers are being a little bit exploited here. And we know that there's a methamphetamine problem on farms today within the illegal workforce community because they're overworked, quote unquote. So there is a lot to be said about the arguments that you just made, where we're saying, it's as close to and relatable to slavery as we're going to get in modern day society, without touching upon the point that there actually is slavery still in existence today. It's worse than it's ever been before across the world, especially with human trafficking and child exploitation and that sort of thing. But the point is, just as you said, no one will pick the cotton. No one will pick the potatoes. It'll cause everything to skyrocket.
It's interesting that you brought up the union aspect, because you see some of the same people who will on the floor argue in favor of unions, private sector or public sector, as we actually saw earlier today, because the unions are there to protect workers. But then they'll turn around and say, well, in this other industry, we're not going to protect workers. In fact, we're going to freeze you out of these jobs, import migrant workers from other countries to do this at lower wages than you would do it. I don't see the symmetry there.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't hear much about Cesar Chavez these days. And Cesar Chavez was anti-illegal immigration. He wanted to form farming unions and the like in California, I believe, and was a big proponent of trying to organize this type of labor and so that they weren't exploited, and was anti-illegal immigration. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. And the proponents of continued an illegal workforce here often try to make this a racial issue or an ethnic issue, but it's really not. It is, you have a system now that incentivizes people to, overstay their visas or come across the border illegally, find work under the table, steal Social Security numbers so that they can work legally, and the people who might share that ethnicity, who did everything the right way, or their parents or grandparents or great-grandparents did everything the right way, they're getting just as, scammed as, anyone else.
Yes, they are. All right. Well, we will continue to watch those bills. We'll leave that QR code up there for you as well. If you are watching and you're able to scan that code, it'll bring up your email, and you can fire off an email really quickly under your own name under your own name to the Senate State Affairs Committee to get those bills heard. Okay, well, real quick this morning, Brian, on the House floor, a couple of important bills were voted upon. One was House Bill 745, and I believe we watched the tally earlier before we went to before we came on the show. 4523. This dealt with unions. Speaking of which, you want to walk us through, remind everybody what this bill was, and then we'll take a look at this tally here.
So yeah, House Bill 745, Representative Judy Boyle. This is the one to prevent taxpayer subsidies of teachers' unions. It's there's been versions of this bill that have come up over the last few years. Last year, it passed the House as well. Got stuck in, where else? Senate State Affairs, Senator Guthrie's drawer. This is the one I carried a resolution to the Idaho GOP winter meeting in support of. We don't want school districts giving away tax dollars to unions to do union activity. If they want to do that, they can do it on their own dime. And that's essentially what Representative Boyle said in her argument. Some of the arguments against, you had Representative Galaviz. She's a Democrat, a school teacher from Boise. She was extolling the virtues of the unions and how many great things that they do, which is not really relevant, I think, to the point, because the point is taxpayer subsidies. There's lots of great organizations out there. I mean, I disagree that the teachers union is one of them, but your mileage may vary. But if we had another great organization, they can do things without necessarily getting tax dollars subsidized to them to allow them to do things. So I'm glad to see this pass. We'll see it come up in the Senate, and hopefully it actually gets a hearing this time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the hearing. Some of the votes there, your typical progressive Republicans who may as well just register as Democrats: Nelson, Petsky, Pohanka, Furryman, Mickelson, of course, just riding that wave of riding those small red waves of being on the progressive side of things. Okay, the other bill was House Bill 720. This was another interesting bill, and it passed by a large margin. What can you tell us about this one?
So yeah, this is another one that was originally brought up last year. And then didn't get far, but now it's here. So right now, under Idaho law, if a city is over 100,000 people, they have to divide into council districts so that each council member represents just a portion of the city. And that way, your council member ostensibly is closer to you, the voter. They don't have to campaign in as wide an area or to as many people, and they're much more in tune with local issues, or at least that's the idea. Currently, Boise, Meridian, and Nampa, all here in the Treasure Valley, fit that description. This bill would make it so that any city over 25,000 has to do the same thing. So my hometown of Eagle, which has 35,000, give or take, we currently have 4 council members at large. In fact, there's not even council seats. We just vote for them at large on the ballot, 2 at a time. We would have to divide our city into council districts, and each council member would then represent that region. And that would also apply to cities like Coeur d'Alene, like Idaho Falls, like Rexburg. There's my list I made the other day. So it would bring this down to much more small cities. And that's some of the arguments for and against. The for arguments is that you'd get better representation. The against is that it would be a prohibitively high burden on these small cities, and besides, they get good representation already. At least that's what Representative Raybould said about her hometown of Rexburg. So I think it's a good idea. We'll see how it goes in the Senate.
Yeah, what's interesting on the vote total here, it wasn't necessarily a partisan issue. You had you can go full screen. So yeah, there we go. You can see the whole thing. You had Democrats like Birch and Church vote for it. Most of you had other Democrats like Galaviz voting against it, but then you had folks like you said, Raybould, who lives in a small city, Manwaring, who lives in Pocatello, I think was on that list. Furryman, who lives in Blackfoot. Was Blackfoot on that list? I don't think Blackfoot was on there.
I don't think it was, but it might get there in the near future.
Yeah.
And from Idaho Falls.
Yeah, Mickelson, Garner, Bingham. Yeah, so very interesting to see that. We'll see how that again goes. It's one of those things that they've tried this before. It stalls out. So whether it makes it through, it's one of those. It might. This is one of those bills that's like a negotiation. It might feel like it's going to turn into a negotiation tactic. Oh, you know what? I'll run that bill if you run this bill and that sort of thing. So who knows? We know that stuff goes on behind the scenes all the time. I couldn't tell you which ones are used that way, but we know that happens. Okay, and then did we have one more from this morning we were highlighting? I know we have, I don't know which one this one is, 723 was also overwhelmingly passed. But if that's not one we need to pay attention to, we don't have to. But one thing that did happen in committee today, Brian, was the House Joint Resolution. House Joint Memorial 17, which was a resolution to reconsider Obergefell versus Hodges. This is the Supreme Court case that basically said in America, same-sex marriages is exactly the same thing as a traditional marriage or marriage. Representative Wisniewski presented the argument today, and there was a bit of remarks on it in the hearing today. Let's listen to Representative Crane make his case for it.
Debate in favor of the motion. I think that the court, obviously, as Representative Wisniewski said in his memorial, that there were two justices that were tainted and should have totally recused themselves. That's totally inappropriate. If you've already taken action prior, they were tainted in their decision. And I think for that reason alone, and for the integrity of the court, this decision ought to be overturned. But I'm not scared of allowing states to make this decision. It can be complex. And, our founders intended for states to be the laboratories of democracy. And why are we afraid for states to define what marriage looks like for their citizens? If you want to get things back to the people and closer to the people with respect to some of these more complex social issues, I think the best place for that to happen is in the states. Now, is there a risk? Certainly there's a risk. You may have states that choose to acknowledge polyamorous relationships. You may have states that choose to have relationships between children. You may have states that choose to have relationships that I would say aren't appropriate. But I also think you're going to allow states to have traditional marriage, and I think that that's a decision that should be left to the states. So I'll be supporting the motion.
Yeah, there you have it. Some good remarks there. And I mean, I've always been a fan of the idea that the states are the incubators for these types of things. I mean, even when this country was founded and the states united to form a federal government, the states were even allowed, shocker, to define which religion was going to dominate their state. It wasn't until the 14th Amendment that things really kicked in. But that's an argument. That's a discussion for another day. This idea, though, that the states can be these incubators. I mean, you're seeing when states like California or Georgia or Minnesota decide to defy the law anyway, they are actually taking the same position. Like, no, we want to be the state that does X, when they quote defy the law, and then they for some reason are allowed to continue to do it. But if Idaho were to not do it, all hell would break loose if we decided to stick with our own laws. So I don't know, what do you think? What do you think about his argument there and this discussion overall?
Well, I mean, obviously I support the memorial and I support the cause behind it. Remember that almost every time that same-sex marriage was on the ballot for people to decide, people decided against it. Even California in 2008, what was it, Proposition 8, I think was the number,
yep.
I forget which way it went. I think it was to enshrine marriage as between a man and a woman in the California Constitution. People overwhelmingly voted for that. And that's the same year that Barack Obama won California by overwhelming margins as well. So, even a lot of Democrats were very supportive of maintaining marriage as between a man and a woman, which is the definition of marriage, obviously. And it was the Supreme Court. And it was the result that you can read about this in various articles that have been done. It was the result of decades-long activism by LGBTQ groups to push it up to the Supreme Court so that they could get it done nationwide instead of going state by state by state by state, which is really how our nation is constructed. That's how it's supposed to be. That's the principles of federalism, that you don't just get to go, convince 5 people in black robes to completely change the laws of not only all 50 states, but of an institution that's been around since the dawn of human civilization. But they managed to pull it off. And I think, looking at the composition of the court now, I think if they were to hear it again, I think they would possibly overturn it. So, this memorial, it doesn't have any teeth to it. It's not like we're passing a law here. It's just sending a request to the Supreme Court that says, hey, this is worth looking at. And if there is a case, and there's always going to be cases of, clerks who refuse to certify same-sex marriage, that could eventually become the bellwether, the banner case for this cause. And this would just add Idaho's voice to that growing chorus saying, hey, this, I think you guys made a mistake. Let's go back and revisit this.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it flies. It's always good to have that debate. All right, Brian, what are you working on? Where can people follow you as we near the end of the program?
At Brian Ullman on X, gemstatechronicle.com. I'm working on an article about some budgets and JFAC, kind of a dry topic, but always very important.
Yeah, well, when are we gonna be voting on these budgets? We haven't had a vote on the maintenance budgets yet, right? On the floors.
The Rescissions Act, which reduces the baseline for the fiscal year 2026 budget, which is what we're in right now, that actually passed the Senate yesterday by one vote. And so it'll head over to the House, and then the maintenance budget should be hitting the House and Senate floors very soon.
Okay, good. We'll pay attention to that. All right, Brian, we'll check back in with you tomorrow. Good to see you. All right, folks. Well, that does it for us today. Be sure to keep tabs on these immigration bills. You got to have that. We have that call to action there. We got to tell the Senate State Affairs Committee that they need to put those bills, you see them right there, H700 and H704. Put those on the docket. Put those on the agenda. Coming up, let's get ready. Let's get ready to have this battle once again in the Senate State Affairs Committee. Folks, if you want to call in, that's the number 208-402-4915 is the number to call, and you will leave your voicemail. You'll leave your name. You'll leave your town, and we'll put it up so everybody can hear your message, and everybody across Idaho will know exactly how you feel about a specific topic. If you think we're not covering something that we should be covering, we'll cover it, and you'll be the one to break the story. So do that. IdahoSignal.live to listen to the show on a loop. Audio only. Save on your data 24/7. You can go to IdahoSignal.live. And folks, it's only Tuesday, but I have a feeling by Friday we are going to cross the 8,000 subscriber mark over on YouTube. It will be fantastic. Also, I see Lily Allman at the top there. We've got a brand new video we're going to debut from In the Know Idaho from Lily Allman. That's coming up. We'll probably air that tomorrow if all goes well. So be sure to come back tomorrow to see that. And AmericanSmokeCo.com, AmericanSmokeCo.com. That's American Smoke Company, because they make terrific smoked salts using Pacific Coast sea salt. They'll take various types of wood. They'll put them together in a smoky environment for like 6, 10, 8, 12 hours. And this is unique. I mean, you put this stuff on your food, and it just lights up your palate with the smoky flavor. You don't have to you let them smoke the flavor, and then you get to put it right on your food. AmericanSmokeCo.com. All right, folks, that's it for here. We will see you tomorrow. We hopefully have some good guests lined up. It is the Wednesday show, and where things are rolling along. We'll have more about the filings, about the elections that are coming up in the primary and in the general, and we will see you for all of that tomorrow. Take care.
This ain't no easy ride. Out here, the dirt tests you. The cattle call you to lead. The earth dares you to dig deep. Idaho is where the bold roll up and stake their claim. Roots don't just grow, they sprout. Every blister, every dawn, it's yours. Feeding a nation, forging the way. Start now, sweat hard, and one day, you're the one calling the shots. Americans don't wait, we act. Long days shape you. Tough, free, shepherds of a sacred land. This is your birthright. You in? Apply now for a career in Idaho agriculture. Dig in, rise up.